right. Good evening, everybody. Hello. I'm Elle, and I'm going to guide you through a restorative yoga under the stars. You may know we do a yoga class at the planetarium at the Science Center. And while this my office, it's not the planetarium, but I have set up all of my little star things, like this totally adorable gift that somebody got for my baby. It's a hippo, and he has stars coming out of his back. So I want to first and foremost thank my husband, Troika, who's our co-founder of Yoga Buzz, for this idea, because he's right, this is adorable. So I'm glad to have you joining me. Tonight, what I would suggest you have for yourself is really what you need is a blanket or two blankets and a pillow or two. And honestly, you can just use the pillows that you sleep with. This is my pillowcase that my grandma made me, and this is a yoga pillowcase that my friend Alicia's grandma made me. So that's all you really need. You might also like to have a chair or a bench. I've got a little bench right here that we will use to rest on for a forward fold later. So that might be something nice for you. And then if you have blocks or something that you can use to create a little extra height, that may come in handy later. If you have a yoga bolster, you can of course incorporate that as well. But again, really just blankets and pillows is the most of what you'll need. I'm going to practice along with you for the most part. I typically don't do the poses and hold them when I teach a restorative class so that I can watch my students. But instead, since people may be popping in and out, I'll hold the poses so that if you look up at the screen, or if you fall asleep, to be honest, and then you look up at the screen to see what's going on, you'll know what pose we're in. So that is the plan for this evening. I think that's it. Let's do some of this restorative yoga. I'm not going to play any music, so if you come back to visit this video later, you can play your own restful, peaceful music in the background if you'd like. Okay, let's do this. So to start, I piled all the stuff around me. You might like putting a blanket down on the ground. You could also do this practice in your bed, to be honest with you. That would be a really cozy place to be. So just think of this as like, my husband calls it a yoga nap, or nap yoga. So just make yourself as comfortable as possible. Our bodies need a chance to rest from all of this stress that we've been under, or I mean, maybe I'm projecting, but I've been under stress, and I'm assuming some of you may have been too. Okay, so let us start with take your pillows and stack them. I'm going to do this side. Take and stack them up high, up tall. If you've got, no, we won't use a block for this. So you're just going to make yourself a little bit of a cushion here. Take and turn around so that your low back comes up towards the end of your pillows, and bring the soles of your feet together with your knees open wide, or you can rest your legs out wide with the legs straight. And then take and rest yourself back onto your pillows. So the idea here is that you'll get a little bit of a lift to your chest. Rest your arms down by your sides with palms facing up. And then if you need to make any adjustments here, you can. The higher up your stack of pillows or bolsters are, the more pronounced of a heart opening you'll get. So if you get there and you're like, oh, this is really uncomfortable, take a pillow or something out from underneath you so that you get closer to the ground, and that may be more supportive for your body. So once you take a moment or two to rest, you can also cover yourself up with a blanket. Something else that you might like to have is a washcloth, or if you have an eye pillow or a clean shirt or something, you could place that over your forehead or over your eyes. That's up to you. Rest your arms by your sides or your hands on your belly. Find what is more comforting for you. Soften your gaze. Take a few full deep breaths. Allow your body to rest against the support that's here for you. And notice what's present as you breathe, present within the body. Maybe you notice that there's tightness or tension in one place of the body or multiple places in the body. And then if you notice that, send your breath into those places like an invitation to that tension to soften, an invitation to the body to let go, and use the exhalation to maybe release some of that holding on that you feel. Take a couple more rounds of breath here, using it as a way to release tension, to soften in the body. And then take your attention to any places in the body that feel really good here. Maybe it feels really nice to rest your back against your pillows. Maybe it feels really good to be still. Maybe it feels good to close your eyes. But focus on some place in the body that feels good or feels free. And if you're having a hard time locating a place in the body that feels free, that feels good, that's okay. So there's some days where it's hard. So instead, follow the movement of your breath. If you do find places that feel good, send your breath into the body as if your inhalations were like a ray of sunshine, warming those places. Little soft affirmations of your right to be here in this practice, taking care of yourself, resting. So as we move through this restorative practice this evening, let yourself be as present as you can, meaning if you find your mind starting to wander, as it does, because that's what it's designed to do, just notice when you've wandered off, and then make a conscious choice to come back to either the sound of my voice or the movement of your breath. If you find yourself drifting off into sleep, same thing. Your body needs the sleep if that's what's happening. Let's take 3 full deep breaths here and see if you can move the breath all the way down into the belly, so that as you inhale, the belly expands with breath, or you imagine the belly expanding with breath. As you exhale, feel the belly contract, the navel draw down towards the earth, or imagine it doing so. Take 2 more big full breaths like that. Rest here in this shape for a few moments. Again, using the breath as an anchor into the present moment. without changing anything about how you're resting here and now. Just notice how you feel. Notice if the act of noticing how you feel changes something. And begin to deepen your breath. Feel for the expansion of the body with your inhalations. Notice the softening of the belly with your exhales. Send little movements into your fingers and your toes. Appreciate the ability to turn thought into action here, how you can think about creating movement and then you can make it happen. If the soles of your feet are together and your knees out wide, bring the knees back in towards one another. If your legs are stretched out long, bend your knees and place the soles of the feet onto the ground. Take and extend either arm carefully up overhead. And then take your time to roll onto that side, being mindful of the fact that you might roll off of your pillows a little bit. And rest here with your arm like a pillow and take a few breaths. Place the hand that you're not resting on the ground. Feel the solidness of the earth below. Take a minute to send gratitude to all that supports you. Whether that's your friends or your family, your community, whether it's your body and the way that it takes breath after breath without you having to ask it to. So much to be grateful for. Sometimes we forget. And from here, press yourself on up to seated. And just take a moment to sit. Rest your hands on the top of your thighs or in your lap in a comfortable way. You can sit up on your pillows if you'd like. So you've just created some space across the front of the heart, the front of the shoulders. Notice if you can maintain that as you sit up tall here. Or if you can feel the echo or the memory of that space. Take and tilt your chin down towards your chest. And tilt your left ear towards your left shoulder. Tilt your chin down towards your chest. Take your opposite ear to the opposite shoulder. See if you can relax your neck and shoulders and even the muscles of your face here. And tilt your chin down towards your shoulder. And lift your chin up to neutral. And we'll set up for our next pose. So here, we're going to do a forward fold. So this is where if you have a chair or a stool, you might like to have it. You also might not need it or want it. Set yourself up and take your heels out wide as you want. Doesn't have to be anything dramatic. Couple options here. You can take and stack blocks if you have them up in front of you. You can stack blocks and then your pillows up in front of you. You can stack whatever you've got. This is also where using a chair or a bench would come in handy, which is what I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna take and put a pillow across the top of my chair here, my little bench. Something else that might be nice if you find as you're sitting here that your spine is rounding, you can take and sit up on a folded blanket or on a pillow. So then from here, we'll take and tilt forward. You can rest your forearms onto your pillow or onto whatever's in front of you. You can also rest your hands on your legs if you don't have any props or anything. It's not the end of the world. You can also stay upright and just tilt your chin to your chest. So all of these are great options. So place yourself in a way where you can put as little effort into this pose, into this, this shape as possible. You can experiment with how you're resting to find a way that is better suited to rest. And if you find that none of this is working for you, then try something different. You can rest onto your back again, or you can rest on your side. Restorative yoga is meant to be soothing, and so if it's anything but, then don't do that. It's a good rule of thumb. You could also take and rest your elbows on whatever your support is and take your thumbs up to the above the bridge of your nose, right at the brow bone here. You can rest that there. Or rest the base of your palms on your eyebrows. That might feel nice. Experiment, and when you find yourself in a place that is sustainable for your body, sustainable for your breath, so that it can move freely here, then start to deepen the breath. And you can continue to practice those belly breaths, letting the belly expand with your inhales and soften with your exhales. Or think of expanding not just the belly, but the low back and out wide, and even the sides of your waist out to the sides as you inhale. So that your breath isn't just forward and back, but moves in a three-dimensional way. It's often said that the back of the body energetically is what connects us to all of our ancestors, all of those who have come before us. So as we breathe into the back of the body, perhaps it's an invitation to ask for wisdom and guidance from all those that came before you, so that we might learn from their challenges, their hardships, as we learn to navigate our way through our own, while also celebrating the resiliency of those who have come before us, because they were around long enough and healthy enough to have a child who had a child who had a child who you came from. So it's this incredible unbroken chain that each of us are a part of, back to so long ago, reminding us of how interconnected we are as beings. As we think back, we also can't help but think forward. What can we do to be good ancestors for all those that come after us? And right now, the best thing that you can do is rest and allow the body an opportunity to heal, to recover, to process. So rest here for a little while longer. Once again, begin to deepen your breath. Notice if there's a difference to the quality or the movement of your breath here and now compared to when you started this practice. And if it's not already, take and tuck your chin down towards your chest. Slowly walk your hands towards the hips and roll up very gently, very focused up until your chin comes to neutral. Take a moment here, sitting tall through your spine. And take a deep breath in through the nose. Open mouth, exhale. Take and move anything that's resting out in front of you. Take your hands to the back of the thighs or the underneath side of your knees and bend the legs, maybe one by one. And again, come to a seated pose. You can sit up on something if you'd like, or nothing. Rest your hands on your lap. Take a moment here to breathe. Or to grab a sip of water or of your hot tea. And let's take 5 steady rounds of breath here. One more breath. Take an inhale. Take an extra sip of breath at the top of your inhalation. And exhale, perhaps out through the mouth. And at the end of your exhalation, see if you can release a little bit more air from the lungs. All right, and then for our next pose, if you used the chair for your forward fold, you might want to use it again for this next pose. So a couple different options then. We're going to do a side bend. So if you're not using the chair, what you'll do is stack your pillows up. Sit yourself so that one of your hips is up alongside your pillows or your cushions, right leg on top of, or the other leg's on top of it, right? So both knees are bent and heels are going off to one side. Then you'll take and walk your hand out and rest up and over your support here. So think of keeping it on the short edge so that you're creating an up and over with your spine. You can then rest a blanket or another pillow between your shoulder and your ear if you'd like. If that is not going to work for your body, what you can do here is using your bench, setting up the same way with your one hip facing the chair, both heels off to the side, or if that doesn't work for your knees or hips, you can also sit cross-legged. And then what you'll do is you'll take and rest your pillows here and sort of like you're like up at a bar, and then rest your head over to the side. And again, you can stack up as many props and support as you need here for it to be restful. So whichever option you go for, you're welcome to stay where you are, or take and reach your opposite arm, so the one you're not resting on, up and overhead. But again, make sure however you rest your body, you are able to actually rest. So if you do it and then something gets pinchy, or you feel that you're efforting to make it happen, then come back. You're not performing here. There's nothing that needs to be accomplished. You have nothing to prove. You're just moving your body in a way so that you can rest. So instead of taking the arm out long overhead, you could also rest it next to the face. So then one more layer of an option here, if you'd like to add a bit of a twist into it. If you're laying down on the ground up and over blankets, take and draw your top shoulder back so that you open your heart up towards the sky. Rest that top arm wherever is restful. If you're using your chair or a stool or you're propped up, instead of opening the heart up towards the sky, turn towards your chair and rest in. So again, if you're on the ground, turn with your top shoulder going back. If you're resting with a chair, top shoulder goes forward. And take a few breaths here. Notice what it feels like in your body when you're resting against something, alongside something. Notice what that support feels like. And then can you soften and rest into that support a little bit more? Take 3 more breaths wherever you are. If you've come into a twist variation of your pose, take an untwist so that your top shoulder is stacked over your lower shoulder. use the top arm to press down into the earth and lift yourself up from there. Taking your time, letting the head come up last. Sit tall through the spine, take a breath or two here. And then keep your setup exactly as it is. All you need to do is turn to the opposite side so your other hip is alongside your support. I'm going to move my stuff just so I don't turn away from you. So same thing as before. Now that hip comes up to the side of your pillows if you're resting on the ground. You can stack the legs here. You can also take and slide the top leg back so that that knee is at the sole of the opposite foot. If you're seated upright, same thing. You can try this cheerleader picture day pose with the legs, or sit with your legs crossed, or whatever's more comfortable for you. And then from wherever you are, take and walk the opposite hand out long. Rest up and over your support here. Again, using an extra pillow or a blanket to rest your head on if you need. And as you rest there on the ground or in your chair, you can stay like this, or take and stretch your top arm up overhead and let it rest somewhere comfortably. Or you can rest that hand in front of the heart, or the elbow in front of the chin. Take a few breaths here, again, feeling into how the body rests into the support below. Sometimes we're resistant to take the offers of help or support that are given to us. But there's a beauty in the vulnerability of accepting help when you need it. So here, let the help that you accept be whatever it is that's holding you here, physically in this pose, and practice breathing deeply. Once again, if you'd like to add a bit of a twist or a turn to the spine in this pose, if you're laying on the ground, take your top shoulder back, rest so that your heart begins to peek up towards the sky. You can rest your top hand on your ribs or your hip or up overhead. And if you're sitting, resting against a chair or a bench or something that's stacked up high, instead turn and take your top shoulder towards the chair to twist. So closed twist versus an open twist if you're on the ground. And then breathe.
And take 3 more breaths here. If you've come into a twisting variation of this shape, take and stack your top shoulder over the lower shoulder. Take and place the top hand somewhere in front of the heart. And press down into the earth or into the chair as you lift yourself up.
And take a moment upright here to sit tall through the spine. And from here, one more pose. It's the big one, Shavasana, or final relaxation. A few options here. If you have a chair or a bench, something you might enjoy doing is as you rest onto your back, you can take and lift your feet up and rest the back of your calves onto your chair, like so that your feet are resting up. It's like a supported kind of legs up the wall pose. If you don't have a chair or don't want to go for that, something that you might enjoy is to take and rest one or both of your pillows, or roll up a blanket into a long tube, sort of like that. It's not a very organized one, but like this, and rest it behind your knees. So gives you just a little bit of a lift, a little bit of a support so that your knees can be bent here. Toes rest out to the sides. So pillow or blanket behind the knees might be nice. If you'd like to rest your head onto a pillow behind you, you're of course welcome to. Take a moment to set yourself up for whatever would be restful so that you can enjoy a nice Shavasana or final relaxation here. Whether you need a blanket or to put on some socks, whatever you need. If you want to take and put your pillow long ways like we did at the beginning of the practice, you can do that too. But whatever you choose, take your time in getting there. Again, if you've got a washcloth or something that you want to put across the forehead or across the eyes, you're welcome to do that. You can also take and roll up a blanket, or what I'm doing is fluffing my pillow underneath the nape of my neck so I get a little extra support there. It's actually kind of creating a little bit of traction for my cervical spine, which feels real good. You can rest your arms by your sides or hands on your belly. Soften your gaze or close your eyes if you feel comfortable doing so here. And give yourself a little time to settle in. What does it mean to you to take time for yourself? Right now, in the midst of everything that's happening with public health, we're either finding ourselves sort of trying to figure out what to do with ourselves as we stay at home away from our routine of going out, connecting with others, or some of us are really stressed, wondering how we're going to deal with everything, with additional responsibilities, etc. So whatever side of the spectrum, whatever spot in the spectrum you find yourself, just know that it's okay to rest. It's necessary to rest.
It's okay to ask for help so that you can take the time to rest. Even if it's just a few minutes, a few moments, even if it's just a few intentional breaths here and there throughout your day. Make space for yourself as best as you can. Here in this moment, rest in the space that you've created for you today. Using the breath as an anchor back to the present moment anytime you find your mind wandering in the next few moments. As you rest here, know that I'll start to bring us back by playing some chimes. So that's when you'll know.
begin to deepen your breath. Begin to send little ripples of movement out into your fingers and your toes, and take a moment as you bring that movement into the periphery of the body to recognize the ripples that we send out into the world, the actions that we take. We also send out ripples when we don't take action. If your feet are resting up on a chair or on a bench, bend your knees and bring them into your chest. If you're resting on the ground, bend your knees and place the soles of your feet flat onto the earth, and then take your time to roll onto either side and pause for a moment there. And here, as we rest on the side, it's this place in between, space between the end of your practice and the rest of your evening. It's the place that the goddess Kali resides. It's in the void, is in the unknown, is in the place in between. We're finding ourselves more and more increasingly in that space of the unknown. But you can still breathe deeply here. And from here, press yourself up to seated. Taking a comfortable seat. And bring your hands to heart center with palms pressing in Anjali Mudra, or with the palms over the surface of the heart, or any other gesture that's meaningful to you tonight as we end our practice together. We find ourselves needing to create distance physically, but emotionally we need each other more than ever. So thank you for taking this time to rest your body, because I've gotten to rest mine. And out of sweet respect for the teacher in you and in all things, out of sweet respect for the light in you and the light in me, thank you so much for joining me this evening. So continue to take care of yourself after this practice. Take a little time to indulge in any yoga buzz that you're feeling. Enjoy a fresh cup of hot tea. And I look forward to practicing with you again sometime soon.